we both played. We had a lot of fun going up there, playing, going in the evening.
Yeah, I remember that all the time in the evenings, playing ball at Jefferson. And,
I don't know what else we did.
yeah, we do a lot of things.
Just went swimming. Steve was talking to me on the telephone, that last telephone call, like, he and I was talking about all the love that we have in our family and how important it is to us, how close the family is. And he said, I know this much. He said, you raised us right. And I said, well, I'm not aware of that. I said, I just did what come natural. I just did it. And he said, well, we always had fun. And I just never thought about it.
Oh, yeah, we did. We had a lot of fun when we were growing up. I just remember
This plan.
just doing things.
But it seemed like whenever I go to visit my friends, when they had a house full of kids, and I had a house full of kids, and then we had we always teaching our children the same way. Everybody was giving the kids piano lessons. Everybody was giving them music lessons. Everybody was taking them to church. Everybody took their kids to baseball games. They were in band. They were in, activities, 4-H. And they were in, like, Betty Jane was in Girl Scouts, and you guys were in Boy Scouts.
I don't know why, but we all were. And I know in Jason's case, he was in a few things, but not near as much.
And I just don't believe that some communities do that.
Well, if you get into the cities, you just don't see, not everybody does it,
Mm-hmm.
But you do, but still, you still, like I'm sure there's parents in Hendersonville got their kids and everything right now.
Well, I'm sure right now that out in the country, the kids are so busy they can't do everything that they want to do. Nowadays, I see they have these basketball teams for the girls, and they have the basketball.
Well, I know as an example, Les and his kids, they're all in sports, and he goes to sports games every night. And his kids are just about out of school, and now they're doing intramural, so he's going to that.
Well, now see those people that came to Steve's party.
Mm-hmm.
There was those
Is it still running?
I forget
Little
what the
red
names were. that
dot
was there.
on it.
Oh, the Fultzes and those three couples came. Well, they're still following their kids around Clinton, just like
Oh,
we
right.
did. It's still going on at Clinton.
Let's see, something to stir up. I remember going back down the lane back in the woods, Dad, and stepping on a sickle or something, cutting my foot real bad one time.
I don't remember that.
Oh, you remember that or not?
Kind of.
Yeah. And like we talked about Mike getting hit in the head with a baseball.
I remember that.
You do?
Yeah.
I do too.
He threw it real hard and he missed it and it caught in his eye.
Yeah.
And I can remember him getting a haircut there in Mulberry. That guy, Barbara couldn't believe it. A black eye that kid had.
Is that right? We used to
He
go.
did have a cracked nose, didn't
Well, the doctor said that if he had to set it, it would really been a disaster on the side of his face. But it may have been cracked, but it wasn't,
Where do we get our haircuts at?
Oh, that was
Cliff
Tony.
Mars in Mulberry. I had to make an appointment.
Who?
Cliff Mars.
And then Cliff Myers. Yeah.
but
We're at Mulberry, Dayton.
Mulberry.
Now, we went to Dayton at one time.
Well, he moved. I think he moved after we moved. But first he went to Mulberry.
Okay.
Then he moved to Dayton.
Yeah.
well, they went to Tony before that in
Where?
Frankfurt. They went to Tony.
Okay. That's when you was taking it, but when I took it.
Okay. Tony. All right, well, and he cut your hair the first time he got it cut.
Hey, I was gonna tell you, I went to Mulberry Bank the other day, and our first house, he had a sign out front for sale.
Oh, the blue one?
Somebody by the name of Bennett owned it. I saw Prairie Sky on the bank, and I said, hey, Prairie, I see the first house I had when I first moved to Mulberry's for sale. He said, oh, you did live there, didn't you? That's where old Bennett lived. I don't know who Bennett is.
Oh, he's that guy that, well, he played basketball at Prairie, I think. He was a meat cutter there
I don't
in
know
Mulberry.
him.
Yeah,
I'd like to know what they're asking for.
yeah. I wonder if the electric heating system's still going.
Probably, well, yeah, I'd probably breaking them up.
You know, another thing about, remember, it seemed like we had money back then, is that a couple of my friends was John Ferguson and Jack White, and then Jeff Chambers.
Yes.
And they all lived in those kind of little houses, you know, in Jefferson and everything. And
Yeah.
John's dad was a trucker, I remember.
Yeah, and his mom died when he was little, and so he was living most of the time with his grandmother.
Yeah.
You know what I used to think? Because we always buy a new car every 3 years. But I'd look at those people that have those jobs, and I'd think they'd better off than I was, because they didn't have a great big wad of money they had to borrow it, and didn't have to buy near the stuff that we had to buy, you know, way of machinery and something to buy all the time to make our living, you know. Always in debt. I always thought those people were better off than I was.
I knew you used to think that way. I could,
And here you think the other way.
yeah. Well, I knew you thought that way because I remember later on you were always just constantly worried about the money that you owed, you know. But you know, that's just business,
Well,
I guess.
what I can't remember is how you went to college. Now, how did we manage the money for you to go to college?
We'd set up a loan. Every year when I'd set up a farm loan, and add on the college.
Oh, is that the
College
way?
loan would be figured in it.
Really? Well, I got to thinking about that, and I couldn't figure out how that was
I
paid
think
for.
half the time we used it to buy machinery. Or something else. It seemed like you always owed oil man or somebody making a lot of money, you know.
Well, you know, I can tell you some of it, how some of it was, and I don't, you know, your loans might be true, but I remember, you know, I usually worked most summers, and it seemed like there was 2 or 3 points during college where I'd have $600 or $800 in the bank or something, you know, and I would live on that kind of maybe for expenses, you know, to run around on. I had a checking account. You set me up with a checking account one time.
Well, see, I had insurance on 3 of you kids. When you turned 18, you had
$1,000.
$1,000.
It could be. But I remember writing a lot of $5 checks at the grocery store because they didn't have bank machines or anything back then. So that's how we got our cash. But I remember Mom, it seemed like Mom, or maybe it was Dad, and I'm thinking of the fraternity, and when I was there, Mom used to write checks to the fraternity to, you know, for paying my house rent and everything. And
Yeah, your mother's working hard.
yeah, she was working back then again. That's probably when you started in the hospital
Done
again.
the same thing with all you kids in college.
Yeah.
Betty Jane.
I definitely remember with Betty Jane.
Uh-huh.
I definitely remember with Betty
That's
Jane.
what I was gonna say. That, the last one we can remember easy.
Because it was easy. I mean, I enjoyed sending her to college because it was just one at a time. But see, there for a while it was you and Steve at the same time, and then we didn't even want to get you two out. Well, Steve quit, and then you went to the Army, and that was out of our hell. Well, then you're coming along Mike.
Yeah.
But Mike, it was a couple of years before he started college. And I know that he worked some, and you worked some too, but yet I know that you didn't work enough to pay all of them.
Oh, no, I mean, I feel like, you know, you paid most of my college. I just remember that specifically, that you paid a lot of my college. I mean, most of it. I mean, it was just like, you know, free.
Yeah.
So, but,
Now we're facing the camera.
yeah, see, you weren't facing the camera that way, so I decided to come over here and sit.
Just what I thought. It won't be long with ball game and supper, I'm telling you.
We got lots of time.
You know, dark's enough.
Okay, Dad and his ball game. Dad loves his ball game.
Well,
Did you like basketball back in farming days?
No, it seemed like I was more interested in
High school.
high school tournaments at the end of the season. Kinda got interested. I'd be out working, but I'd have the radio on and listening to the tournaments. I don't remember.
We did go to some of the tournaments.
Oh, I remember driving back in some of that cold weather, or snow or rain or something in March, you know, and usually the first of the tournaments or maybe the end of them always had snow. It seemed like it got canceled because of snow about half the time or
Well,
something.
it's, no, it seemed like tournament time.
Yeah.
Last February and March.
And I remember going up to Frankfurt, the old gym. I remember the old gym or some tournaments or something we were
You
doing.
know
up
what they made out of that now?
Huh.
Clinton County Jail.
Is that right?
They've remodeled that thing. It's gonna be one of the most modern jails.
Is it remodeled or tore down and rebuilt?
I think they tore it down most.
Yeah, because I remember seeing something like that when I went by
Where
there.
Dick Newhart's gonna be for a while.
There. But I remember going to the old Frankfurt gym like for Saturday tournaments and like between games, I can remember, and this is when I'm young too, going over to the Roxy Theater to a movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like with Dick Sheets or somebody, you know, between, like we'd go see the Clinton Prairie or the Jefferson game.
We always done that too when we were kids.
Did you? Yeah. When you were in high school, you mean?
Yeah, we go to tournament and then when.
In between games?
In between.
Some game you didn't want to see or something like the
Go
other
to show,
school.
you know.
Yeah, you
Well,
go.
that's a big deal, you know,
Yeah.
uptown.
Oh, it was a big deal for me too, yeah, yeah. Remember going to the Roxy Theater and then later on, but I remember you guys, driving us back from the games, and then I think later on I remember driving to some of the games and stuff, no, I remember on the farm playing with Steve a lot and having Steve around a lot. Remember we used to build, things in the haymow, tunnels and stuff in the haymow.
Yeah.
And one time it seemed like I cracked my head, or
Yeah,
Steve
you
did, or
did.
somebody.
You did.
Poor old Mike was always cracking into it.
Mike did, didn't he? He had
Yeah,
a
he always
stitch
had
all
a
the time.
bump. I don't know if it did anything to bump, he's bumping.
And we were always running up to the doctor and getting stitches for him, wasn't we?
Yeah.
Finally, I just got tired and I started taping them together. That's what the doctor wound up doing.
No, Mike had a lot of bumps, okay.
We get hurt.
Well, do you still get have treatments on your neck, you know, like where, last winter you was telling me that chiropractor
Yeah.
said that you evidently fell sometime.
Yeah, I placed it on that motorcycle wreck I had there in Colfax.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But I don't know, it might have been up in Haymow or something. I remember riding the pigs sometimes. We'd jump out of the haymow on top of a pig and then ride it for a little while. Our dad probably wouldn't like that. Get pigs all upset. Hot, lose pounds, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
Might break his back.
Yeah.
I don't think he jumped from the hay mow down on him, did he? Might have jumped off the gate, or
yeah,
swung off the gate.
probably, yeah.
You
Yeah.
jumped out of the hay mow.
Well, and then, no, probably not. And I remember when we had a basketball goal up in that one side of the haymow,
We had to put snow fence along the side to keep the ball from going down
in the hall.
or the messy hole where.
Yeah. I thought that was so neat when we played basketball up in that haymow. I remember doing it, playing over at Dilly's too, probably, but we, you know, you'd have straw or hay on both sides of you, but a big lane where we played basketball. That was neat. That was neat. I love that old farm. That was just.
You know, I wonder what Steve, he took pictures out there.
Oh, did he?
Uh-huh.
On his trip here last?
Yeah, when he was here. He went out there one day and drove around, and I don't know where all they went.
Showed all his kids and everything.
And where he went to school.
I
And,
called Warren up, and I asked him if he cared to pick him
Is
out.
that right?
So when I got out there, first Warren, you know, I told him, I said, about Steve coming out, I said, his family's kind of dark, and Warren kind of laughed, well, that's all right. And, I wanted to worry him, I didn't know really what he knew it.
Well, why did you just tell them they were from Indonesia?
I suppose he knew it, didn't he?
You might have thought they were black or something, I don't know.
And anyhow, Warren and Mike stood and talked a long time while
Steve looked around.
Steve and the family looked around.
Oh, yeah.
This morning, got a new, replaced the dryer since we'd been there, and Mike and him was talking about that.
Oh, yeah. I don't know what Warren looks like hardly. If I've seen him, it's been from a
He's a
distance.
pretty good sized kid,
Yeah.
and of course, I suppose he looked like anybody in their fifties now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
He raised all his kids, or both his
Yeah.
kids.
it's funny. I mean, it's real similar to what we did, really.
Mhm.
And his boy was farming with him.
Now, does he own some ground? He owns
Yeah,
quite a bit,
he
didn't
bought
he?
that 139 acres where Bernie
Yeah.
used to.
That's right. He went ahead and stuck his neck out in both the ground, didn't he? There in the
Yeah.
70s. Yeah.
Then he built a farrowing barn on it.
Yeah.
And then he sold half the feeder pigs to Longview, and he raised the feed them out there.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, what do you remember that you liked best about raising fair to finish hogs?
What'd you say the worst?
Yeah, there's only got to be one best part.
The only best part is when he sold it.
That's right.
I got sick of it, work.
It's a lot of work.
In fact, I kind of enjoyed it when they had the storm wipe us out. Wiped us out of the home business.
Alright. Yeah. It's a lot of work. I know. I helped with some, but
I just worked on it. I mean, you just had to quit of an evening. You could work all night, I reckon. I was never the kind to depend on a hard man and tell him to go ahead. There's so much of it one person can do himself anyhow. Oh, I guess I would.
but some of these trips we went on, let's talk about those real quick. You started to mention a couple of them. What was maybe the first one when I was 9 or 10? I remember we went to, where did we all go? I remember Colorado, New York,
Yeah, we went to
Smokies.
We went, that New York, one of those trips we went to Niagara Falls.
Yeah.
Let's see, where else we go? Smokies a couple of times.
What do you remember about it?
St. Louis, the zoo.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't remember going there.
You remember the big old gorilla sitting around picking his nose?
No, I don't remember
And
that.
just sat there so bored and pick his nose and stared
Well, the only
at
time I remember
us other
going to
gorillas.
the zoo, we went to Chicago to the zoo,
Yeah.
the Brookfield Zoo.
That was with Gerald and Joan and.
Yeah, but we went there before that.
uh,
Mhm. And then we was up north, we went to that Ford,
Dearborn,
okay, we went to that,
Ford Museum.
well, it was a town, isn't it?
Well, Dearborn.
Well, they had established older buildings, put buildings in this, well, in this area, like an
Oh,
old.
well, no, I remember going through Chicago when we went like to McCormick's place, or was that in high school trip or
That's
something?
probably in high school.
Mhm.
I don't think we've been there, but I don't think we took, as kids was more than that, I don't think.
Yeah.
I know I've been there, maybe wasn't even married.
Let's see, what do you remember as far as your friends? Who'd you run around with, or I mean,
Oh, well, we just always went with the same crowd, and Gerald and Joan, and Bob and Carol Larsh, and when you was little, you know, before school, why there was a group, it was Johnny Howarth and his family, they lived in Colfax, and there was Bob and Carol. Gosh, there was Lane kids,
We
Jack
didn't-
Lane.
We didn't associate too much with ours or Lane.
well, that's the only people that was our friends. That's
Yeah,
only
but
people
I mean, we
we-
never run around with them hardly any.
Well, we did, we had suppers together,
I remember that.
well, we did. And that was just the only time we had, any social life, when we get together with those people.
Hope we don't ball game like this. Then just, you can go in there and dip yourself, well, I gotta cut the meat though.
And you've got to meet.
Well, you gotta eat, you don't know how full I got of potatoes and carrot.
Oh, what are you
The
gonna do?
meat's way down in there.
Oh,
So what year are you guys up to, 61?
I don't think we know.
We've been skipping around more than I want.
well, you just can't help it, because I've tried to think and tried to say that we ought, Keith and I ought to get together with maps and make out as much as we can plan the different trips, and then try to dig in our brains and look at pictures.
We can't remember things 2 years ago, what are you talking about?
Well, I'm sure you remember things that I don't remember.
What do you remember about the storm in what year was that? 60,
55, September the 14th.
September the
And
14th,
you had little kids or something right there on the night before,
the night before.
the night
For
before.
your birthday.
We had a lot of cars, with kids out there.
I've been a week before because September 14th is a week
Mhm.
before my
Oh, week
birthday.
after.
The week after my birthday.
And then the next night we had that storm. I'm glad those kids wasn't there then.
Well, I remember being in the living room and that started storming, and Mom and Steve weren't home yet, were they?
I'm going to get him
You went to get Steve,
at school.
yeah,
He was band practice.
and so you just got home when the storm hit,
Mhm.
basically, didn't you?
Yeah.
And we all ran for the cellar, and I remember coming down the stairs and seeing the tree bent over outside, almost touching the ground, great big tree. And all of a sudden we were down there downstairs and boy, it just, windows started going, and
Well, and then you heard the building just twist. Crack.
Well, I heard thump, thump, thump when the roof went off. Thump, thump, thump. And, I'm just sitting in that front room, looking out the window all the time. Just watching the lightning and everything, and then all at once the window blew out, and I said, everybody at the basement.
But John didn't come. And then he was in there still looking out the window, and I yelled at him, get down here.
but everybody else was down in the basement by then, Mike and Steve.
We had
they
two
did-
candles sitting above the fireplace, and they're still burning when we come back up after the storm.
Is that right?
With the hamburger from the table, kitchen, was in the living room, but the candle's still burning.
Mhm. And one of those lamps that was up on top of all the, shelving I had in the kitchen, it was picked up and it was sitting around in the front living room with two doors, and it's sitting there and one broken. A kerosene lamp. It wasn't lit, but it was moved from up there.
Because, they got real light glass and they break easy, don't they?
The shade breaks, but it wasn't broken.
What did we do that night?
That night after the storm,
The night of the
well,
storm?
we sat there and it was raining in, and water was dripping here and dripping there, and
About
Good
11
times.
o'clock, Stanley Gerald and some guys drove up. And they knew there was a storm, and they were driving through and dodging like water and debris down the road. And they stopped. I think they took us up to Uncle Donald at midnight or after.
What, did we try to put plastic over anything, or?
We just let hogs just squealing and, everything's a mess. What could we do at midnight,
Yeah.
Raining, pouring down rain. We just got blessed.
Yeah. Hogs were dying and,
Oh, yeah, it was too scary out there.
yeah. Oh,
you went out before
You know, I was
daylight.
afraid to walk out in a place on electric wires, because you don't know if it was probably all down, electricity was off. It hadn't been off all evening anyhow. But you never know when it'd come back on.
mhm.
So we just left about 4 o'clock on dawn light, come back out the farm.